Okay, class, this is our video for integer operations. Notice that I am on page 14 of my notebook, so please turn your notebook to page 14. That means you'll probably have a blank page in there somewhere. Okay, we're going to start with adding integers. We have two rules for adding integers. We have a same signs rule and a different signs rule. Okay, same signs rule says add the numbers and keep the sign. Different signs rule says subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Okay, what we mean by absolute value is the number's distance from 0 on the number line. So that means that 6 and negative 6 have the same absolute value because they're both 6 positions away from 0 on the number line. Okay, if you need to, please pause the video and go ahead and copy this information down before I start. Okay, my first example, I have negative 9 plus negative 6. Both numbers are negative, so that means we use the same signs rule. So I'm going to add the numbers and I'm going to keep the negative sign. So that means I add negative 9 plus negative 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. Keep the negative sign. So answer is negative 15. My next example, I have 8 plus 7. You've been adding 8 plus 7 since you first learned how to add. It's not going to change. So therefore, 8 plus 7 is still 15. Still positive. Okay, I want you to try the next example yourself. Okay, let's go to the different signs rule. So subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So my first example, I have a negative 4 and a positive 8. So that's why they're different signs. One is negative, the other is positive. So I'm going to subtract these two numbers and I'm going to keep the sign of my larger absolute value, which happens to be the 8. So it's basically the number that looks the biggest is the sign that we keep because there's basically more positives than negatives here. So my answer here will be 4. Okay, in the next example, I have 5 plus negative 12. 5 is positive, 12 is negative. So I need to subtract these numbers and get 7. And since the negative 12 has the larger absolute value, that means my answer will be negative. So the answer is negative 7. Okay, you try the next example. Okay, next we're going to do subtracting integers. The rule for subtracting integers says to add the opposite. That means we're going to change to addition first. Once we change to addition, then we can follow our addition rules above. Okay, and we're going to use a little process called keep, change, change. Okay, the way we do keep, change, change, which is add the opposite. Please don't go to 8th grade saying keep, change, change. Okay, I'm going to break these numbers up. So I'm going to put a line behind the 5. And then I have my minus sign, which goes in the middle by itself. And then the last number should be sitting back at the end by itself. So I'm going to put a K under this 5, a C under the minus, and a C under the 9 for keep, change, change. So this means I'm going to keep the 5. I'm going to change the minus to plus, and I'm going to change 9 to negative 9. So that's how I'm adding the opposite, because I'm adding the opposite of that 9. Which is negative 9. So now I have 5 plus negative 9, so that means that my signs are different. So follow your different signs rule for addition, which says subtract the numbers and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So subtract 5 and 9, you get 4. The larger absolute value is negative 9, so your answer is negative 4. Okay, next example, we have 6 minus negative 6. Okay, let's apply our add the opposite, which is keep, change, change. So I'm going to split, put a line behind the 6, put a line behind the minus, then negative 6 is the last number back there. So put your keep, change, change. Now we're going to keep 6, we're going to change minus to plus, and negative 6 changes to positive 6. Now we add 6 plus 6 and it gives us 12. So technically the 6 minus negative 6, that's a double negative minus negative, which basically changes to a positive. Okay, in our next example, we have negative 4 minus 7. So line behind negative 4, line behind the minus sign. Put in your KCC. And we do -4 plus -7. So this time, both of my numbers are negative, so I'm going to apply the same signs rule, which says add the numbers and keep the sign. So that means I am adding 4 and 7, and I'm keeping my negative sign. So answer is -11. Okay, my next example, I have -9 minus -15. So let's keep change. So I keep -9. I change the minus to plus, and I change the -15 to a +15. So now I'm going to apply my different signs rule, which says subtract the numbers, keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So when I subtract 15 and 9, I get 6, and the answer is positive because 15 has the larger absolute value. Okay, I want you to try the next two examples yourself. So pause the video and do that. Okay, now we're going to go to multiplying and dividing integers, which should be on page 15 now. Okay, we have two rules. The first rule says if your signs are the same, your answer will be positive. The next rule says if your signs are different, your answer will be negative. Got a little tic-tac-toe board to help you kind of remember the rule. So the way we fill in our tic-tac-toe board is we're going to put positives in a diagonal. Okay, and then you fill in the rest with negative signs. And the way you read it is, no matter whether it's multiplication or division, it works. It's a positive times a negative is a negative. A negative times a positive equals a negative. A negative times a negative equals a positive. You can even go your diagonals. A positive times a positive is a positive. You can go up and down, or it doesn't matter which direction you go. Your tic-tac-toe board should help you to get your correct sign. Okay, next examples. We have -9 times 8. This is multiplication, not subtraction or any other operation. There is no sign between these numbers, so that means you're multiplying. So multiply 9 times 8, you get 72. Since we have different signs, that means our answer is negative. So -72. You're multiplying and dividing as normal. So my next one is -14 divided by -7. Both signs are negative, so that's same signs. That means my answer is going to be a +2. Next example is 15 times -3. This -3 is inside the parentheses. There is no other sign in between here, so that means multiply. So the signs are different, so my answer is going to be negative. 15 times 3 is 45. So answer is -45. Okay, this example means divide because of the bar right here. So a negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive answer. So answer is +8. Okay, you try these three yourself. Okay, don't forget to pause the video whenever you need to. Okay, the last thing down here is telling you that if you have an even number of negative signs, your answer is going to be positive. If you have an odd number of negative signs, your answer will be negative. So I've got two examples to show you here. Okay, the first example, we have three numbers and all three are negative. So that's an odd number of negative signs, so my answer should end up being negative. Let's see. Okay, let's take two numbers at a time. So let's start with -3 times -2. Both numbers are negative, so same signs when we're multiplying means we get a positive answer. So -3 times -2 is 6. Now bring down your -5. Now when we multiply 6 times -5, that's different signs, so that means my answer is going to be a -30. Okay, you try this last example yourself. Do two numbers at a time. Matter of fact, I suggest you multiply these two first and these two first, and then multiply those two products and see what you get. Okay, that concludes our video notes over integer operations. Please Make sure that you go back and fill in your other examples if you did not pause the video on the way, as you were watching. And I will see you in class on Monday. Have a good weekend, guys.